At a very young age, I became chronically self-aware of myself. Every aspect of my life I questioned, I overthought, I criticized myself. Every aspect of my physical image, mentally where I'm at, just the thoughts I was having, the friendships I was in. I questioned everything and not in a productive manner. It was more in a ruminating way where I was just consuming the same negative thought over and over and believing it. And eventually, this rumination kind of paralyzed me where I did not want to do anything. I didn't want to go out because these conclusions and observations that I came up with told me that I can't go out because people don't like me or there's something. I just overthought. I overthought literally everything. Every interaction and conversation I had afterwards, I spent about 30 minutes analyzing every single thing. Even the way I looked, and I can't even see myself. I asked myself, oh, should I have said this, or why did I say this, or how did this come across? And it was a terrible cycle. At the time, it felt terrible, but it was just a cycle of just overthinking and not getting any answers or clarity. And this happened for a while. This happened for a very long time. But through that, it taught me something. Through that, it taught me how to analyze my thoughts, to become a scientist to my own brain. And instead of questioning myself and not looking for the answer or the solution or a different perspective, I just made negative conclusions and accepted them and carried on with my life. And I let these negative conclusions run my life. In high school, I missed out on a whole bunch of experiences because of my thoughts and the observations I made. I think this self-awareness probably came from a trio friendship that I was in, and this happened on two separate occasions where I was kind of the odd man out, and that's where all this questioning began. So, like I said, years of overthinking. At the time, nothing productive came out of it, but eventually, I don't know what changed, but something changed where instead of accepting these conclusions and becoming one with these negative thoughts, I kind of started to separate from these thoughts. I started to analyze them. I started to wonder where they came from, what experiences caused these thoughts. Why did I choose to believe these thoughts and these beliefs that I could tell were not productive to my life? They were just holding me back. And even that I overthought of. Why am I being held back? I didn't even know that these negative thoughts and conclusions were holding me back. So literally every aspect of my life I had no answers to. But somehow I just gained the intuition to understand these thoughts better. I became a scientist to my own brain, and I treated these thoughts and experiences like experiments, just like a science would. I would kind of put theories, I would run tests on myself, understand and broke down why I felt certain emotions, what experiences led me to these conclusions. And through time, I started to see actual positive results where I could kind of, in my own brain, problem solve my own thoughts. And it started becoming kind of a almost like a self-sustaining factory my brain became, where anything coming from outside of me, any negative thoughts, I could process it, and instead of associating with it and putting the conclusion and narrative on me and living that way, instead I turned it into something productive. I turned it into a learning experience. Kind of, it's basically introspection. And that's why becoming chronically self-aware became my superpower. Because through that, if we go back in time, my old self would say nothing good came out of this, only negativity, held me back from experiences. But I think kind of through your struggles and kind of your main internal battle on the opposite side of that, that's kind of where you find your purpose. And I feel like understanding how our brains work and how thoughts work and where they come from, now it has kind of put me on a path where I feel like I can help people out. That's why I'm making these videos. Or I feel like the people in my life, I can kind of give them a different perspective. And I feel like many people see self-awareness when it gets to an extreme where it's crippling, like what I had, as a negative thing. And in the moment, it is negative. It is just really negative thoughts that you are constantly chewing, spitting out, chewing again, spitting out. You're doing nothing productive with these thoughts. But hopefully, if you relate to this, instead of believing these thoughts that have controlled your life, now you can kind of transmute them into something more positive, because at the end of the day, we have the choice. We have the choice to take these negative experiences and observations and let them teach us something for the better. That's what transmutation is. Back then, um, the medieval alchemy, they were trying to turn lead into gold. And we can parallel that to our mind by turning these negative thoughts, which would be the lead, into something gold, into something productive, which I feel like I'm an example of. Because back then, I would have never had the confidence, and my self doubt would have never allowed me to create a YouTube channel. But through persistence and patience and just delusional self belief, we can really turn these negative experiences into something for the better, you know? And I want to share this perspective because, on social media, I see a whole bunch of people and they talk about how self-awareness, or I see like in comments where their self-awareness has ruined their life. And I can directly relate to that. But I think just talk to them, like my other video. Just talk to your thoughts, get to know them. Don't become one with your negative thoughts, because they are not you. Even if you were the one who put forth the action and you're the reason for these negative thoughts, at the time you were doing what you thought was best. And you can't hold that against you. Because you can really only learn and heal from your past experiences. And I believe we can turn any negative experience and transmute it into something productive.